Hello, Patreon backers. Thank you for helping us out, as always. This is the Patrons Ask GN episode. We're shooting at least 2 of these today, or 2 Ask GNs. Don't know if we'll do the 3rd, we'll see, but you can find those on the main channel if you want the full episodes. So first question for this one is from Sean Devine, who says, did you learn anything from the Canadian Ruble Miser Linix, IX, about their move from a house to office that help you to make some mistakes, if any? So, Sean, I think what you're asking is, did Linus help us out in moving? And the answer is, I actually did have a call with Linus when we were trying to make the decision of, do we want to lease an office, try and buy something, get a bigger house, something like that? Because he went that route. They went from Linus's garage to buying a house for the company, and worked out of that until, I don't know, it's all public information. They're probably at like 8 employees or something before they moved, and also public information, they got evicted. So the way that worked was they were running out of the house he bought for the business up until a point of having so many cars in and out that the neighbors just couldn't tolerate it anymore, called it in, and fortunately, Linus was in the process already of moving into, I think, his current warehouse. So they were able to get out of there pretty cleanly, because they were already in the process of moving when whatever government agency or town came over and told them to get out. They were able to say, well, we're waiting on you guys to approve our construction plans. So they got out pretty cleanly, and that's why I went to Linus to ask him, what do you think about these 3 options I have for expanding? Because I knew he went through it all, and I wanted to know, is it worth taking that risk? Should you just go straight for an office? Does buying a house and taking the risk of running against ordinances make sense? Because it's way cheaper. Internet alone is about 10 times cheaper. So there's definitely financial incentive to go for just a bigger house. But the problem is, other than ordinances and looking over your shoulder all the time, is that you do kind of, I don't know, a house has a lot of unusable square footage. There are more bathrooms, there's often stairs, and bringing stuff up and down for test rooms and test environments kind of sucks. So we ended up just going for an office. But yes, Linus was extremely helpful. We appreciate his help in that. He's a busy guy, but did take some time to walk me through all the decisions they had to make and all the ups and downs. It worked out well for them, and we were already running out of a house for long enough that it just made sense at this point to make it more formal and official and go for an office. Next question is from Exeus, who says, hey Steve, if I told you I just watched an interesting video on YouTube where PowerVR showed off real-time ray tracing in a mobile GPU at CES 2 years ago with similar performance to Nvidia's new RTX desktop range, what would you say to that? And then here's the link. Disclaimer, I don't work for Nvidia, AMD, PowerVR, or anyone else connected to this stuff. So 2 years, actually 4 years ago, 2014 I think, there was a ray tracing demo for games. And do we know the name of that game, Andrew?
The little game I showed?
Yeah.
Children of Tomorrow.
Children of Tomorrow. So Children of Tomorrow, I'm being told, is the game from, I think, 2014 that has some ray tracing in it. The ray tracing is not new. It's been around for decades at this point. It's just a question of doing it in real time and making it look good. So it's been in games even recently in real time, even before this, whatever this demo is that you linked. Now the thing I would say though, ray tracing in a mobile GPU with similar performance, I have to question, because just rasterization, you can't get similar performance between a mobile GPU and a desktop GPU. So similar performance, but how does it look? Might be the same frame rate, but does it look the same? And RTX, we don't know exactly how good it's going to be, but at the end of the day, it's a desktop part, so it will be better than mobile. It's just a question of how much better. As far as ray tracing though, yes, you're absolutely right. Real-time ray tracing has existed for a while. It's just that you're trying to trace more and more rays, and Nvidia is doing some denoising stuff with their tensor cores to help out with performance. So you can ray trace, it's just how many rays can you trace actively in real time and still have performance to play the game. And the mobile demo you're talking about, I'm not familiar with, but they may have just done less with ray tracing. Next one is from Metallus, who says, how about in the future when everything in the new office is going 100%, expanding to testing other tech-related products like audio gear? For example, headsets, or even not gaming-related stuff like phones, etc. We see many TechTubers do this, but no one with in-depth testing like you do. The problem I have with audio equipment is it's extremely hard to do anything objective. So audio is extremely subjective. We used to review headsets and speakers and mice and keyboards and things like that. And mice and keyboards are a bit easier because you can take them apart. You can look at the switch quality. You can look at the soldering quality. Do they have kind of messy soldering on the backside of the PCB for the keyboard? But headsets, without insane audio testing gear, it's entirely subjective, and it's not really what we specialize in because it's, I don't know, it's not the kind of review I like to produce. So we don't have any plans for audio testing anytime soon, but for keyboards and mice, maybe. We have had ideas for a while now on latency testing, so input latency testing. We did it with Logitech at their PAX booth years ago, and that's not too difficult to set up, it just takes money. So we might go that route sometime, but no plans for audio right now. Next one, metalshark. Got a metal theme today. Is there a better product to use when removing black silicon, or silicone rather, I think is what you're talking about, the silicone adhesive. So is there a good product to use for removing silicone adhesive around the CPU for direct die mounting? You could, so rather than using isopropyl or acetol or something like that, I would just use a wooden spike. So you can, the rocket cool kits come with toothpicks that are widened on one end. So rather than just a pointy toothpick, it's got a wide sort of like brush-sized end to it. You can use that and just scrape off the silicone adhesive. It's coming off of nickel-plated copper on one side, so you're not going to hurt it even if you use a knife. You could use a razor blade and just push it really flush. Try not to scrape the metal, but if you do, it's okay. It won't kill it, and you can get it off that way. But I would recommend the wooden sort of toothpicks that just scrape it off, especially on the substrate, because that you don't want to scratch. Don't use a razor blade on the substrate. Just use something that's not too abrasive but can still scrape it off, like the wooden toothpicks that Rocket Cool sends. Next one is from, we have two more. Tellos says, do you feel there's a lot of bad or poor use of industry jargon that gets used too wrongly or as a catch-all phrase in tech in general? I feel I've noticed a rise over and over again of people hearing a word and then throwing it around to sound smart and often misinforming other people with it. While it grates the hell out of me, how do you feel about this? Or am I just sensitive to this perhaps too much? I personally just want to make sure we use terminology correctly so we get accurate information and accurate solutions to answers. It actually doesn't bother me because there's, as long as everyone understands what they're trying to say, I'm fine with it. It doesn't need to be perfect, just like with English. It doesn't need to be perfectly grammatically correct 100% of the time. There's no point in spending your whole day in the comments correcting everyone else's uses of words, especially because all of us make mistakes with the words we use in comments or in videos or whatever. So it's just, as long as you understand it, it doesn't bother me. Next question, Mr. Nick says, in reference to your new office and new work areas, a lot of other channels receive hardware from vendors for business use systems. Have you not received any offers or have you turned them down? I'm mildly surprised that companies haven't offered you complete builds for editing or streaming or what have you. We have had a few offers, but the problem with those is if it's a review product, I'm fine with accepting it for review. If it's, they want to send us a system like from one of the SIs to use in business use daily, that's a bit different because we're not reviewing it, so what do they get out of it? Because they want something. And it's exposure only gets you so far when you're saying, we use this computer for editing and you never talk about it again. They're going to want more than that. So just to avoid obligations, we tend to do stuff ourselves if we can. For the systems that we're building for editing and stuff like that, I am recruiting Corsair to send some memory and power supplies, and we might have another vendor, Gigabyte, sent a motherboard. I bought the CPU. We're pulling GPUs from inventory. So for Corsair and Gigabyte in those instances, what we're doing is building the systems in a live stream and then overclocking them. So they get to show off their overclocking performance, which is beneficial to them, but we don't have to commit to anything greater than that, which is why I prefer to go that route than asking for an expensive, complete pre-built system from one source. We go through multiple sources just to spread out the obligations a bit so that we can keep things as isolated and independent as possible. So that's it for this one. As always, check the main channel for the main episode. We might have two of them there, but subscribe for more. You probably already are since you're a Patreon backer. Thank you for helping us out, and I'll see you all next time.